and say, what's the point? I could move right straight from varsity into entrepreneurship.
Obviously, there's nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely nothing wrong.
There's nothing wrong with it.
But I always kind of feel like it's important to take a step back because directors also need to be directed. I mean,
that's true.
You could be a director, but
there's a lot that we still need to learn.
Yeah.
From other people that we see on our daily basis in the industry.
Yeah.
For me, at that time, at the age of 21, 22, my thinking level was not at a point of letting me start something for myself. Had I not received a job, I would probably would have been stuck and not knowing what to do with my life. So I think that 9 to 5 actually helped me in terms of making a living for myself and
You are capable.
With your lovely host, Londeka and Ndebele over here, and
your awesome host, Bulelani Ndebele over here.
Alright guys, please don't forget to like and subscribe on our video. Would really appreciate that very much.
Yeah, we would, guys.
Yeah. And we also have a foundation that's going on, You Are Capable Foundation. Bulelani will tell us more about it.
Yeah guys, so as we've been saying on previous podcasts, it literally is something that we need to register for. Let's support each other. Their whole idea is for youth empowerment, right?
Yeah.
And you can literally use the email address info@yourecapable.com. What are we talking about today?
So today we are talking about a 9 to 5 job.
Yeah.
Is it really worth it nowadays? Considering that we've got social media. We can just all be influencers and just chill there by Instagram, by YouTube, and look pretty and stuff. So that's the question today. Is it worth it? Having a 9 to 5 in this day and age, basically. So what are your thoughts on that one?
I think that's an interesting topic. It's a very interesting topic. I think, babe, in terms of the 9 to 5 situation, there's a lot of things going on around the 9 to 5. I think before we answer the question, the fact is that for me, in my experience, is that I've been hearing a lot happening on social media against the 9 to 5. I think we've realized a lot of people say it's a waste of time. It's a waste of, you're wasting your resources, you're wasting your energy. You're still young, you should be able to be focusing on other things, So I think for me, 9 to 5, to come back to your question, I think is a very important thing. What's your thought around it?
Yeah. And I think not just necessarily the fact that, people are bashing the 9 to 5, but I think it's also the fact that what is currently being portrayed, on social media. We see a lot of young people in their 20s and not necessarily going for their their traditional day-to-day jobs, if I can put it that way. People are on social media making very good money on social media. But is it really practical for everyone, to actually take that route? I think that is the discussion that we would definitely like to have and share from our side how the 9 to 5 has worked, for us. Yes.
Because it does work, eh?
It definitely does work.
Yeah.
At the same time, we're not saying be stuck in your 9 to 5 when you've got an opportunity to actually grow and step out there and do your own thing. We also advocate for that, So what do you think or have been the benefits of a 9 to 5 for you?
I think, babe, for me, literally the 9 to 5 is a very important tool to have, in your arsenal. I think it's something that's very important. I look at it as like an academy. I love football as well, besides the music. But so an academy is where people are trained, You go to an academy and you receive training. So I think that's where you get a lot of discipline. You get to understand your work routine through a 9 to 5. I look at it from a point of you also find usually your mentors in a 9 to 5, people that will help you grow, people that will help you achieve a new, sort of set of rules and all that. So, with that point for me, I think the 9 to 5 is quite useful. It's quite useful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think for me, what I can share is the fact that, as you've mentioned, you get to build a really good work ethic.
Yeah.
Because whether you like it or not, you need to be at work.
Sure.
So as a young person, that teaches you to be disciplined.
Yeah.
Even if, because I feel like if you start with doing your own thing, not that there's anything wrong with starting with just your own business.
Yeah.
But if you start with your business, it needs a lot of discipline and growth, into understanding that, in as much as there's no supervisor above me or manager, but I still need to be responsible as a person.
Sure. And I think you're very right with that. The responsibility aspect, you're taking ownership of what you need to do. And the guidance, for me, the guidance is very important.
Yeah.
That's why I'm saying I'm sharing my experience, because it's my experience as a disclaimer, as we always say. For me, it's very important. If you look at what I've been quite involved in, what we've been quite involved in, we still do our 9 to 5 jobs to a certain extent, It also brings out the professionalism side of things. Because if you don't do a 9 to 5, where do you learn? From varsity straight into,
Especially if you're not someone who did business, For me, I didn't go to business school.
Sure.
So I didn't know anything about business.
Sure.
But being in a company, working for an organization, actually taught me the structures of the company. Let's just start there. HR, the importance of taking minutes in a meeting, the importance of paperwork, in everything that you do, in business, you can't just do business without paperwork. That's very important. So I think those are all the things that we get to learn in a 9 to 5 job, and as well as relationships with the people that we meet.
Sure.
For me, I've found great human beings, at work, people who would call my mothers and fathers.
I'm not so great. But anyway,
that's not always the case. But if you look at the positives, you also learn to build maturity, but you also learn to build relationships within that.
Sure.
Because being an entrepreneur by yourself is actually quite a lonely journey, if we can put it that way.
Yeah, it's a very lonely journey, to be honest. And for us, babe, to share a bit more about how we've transitioned, because I feel like it is important to be in a 9 to 5, but I feel like there is a transition stage. I think there's got to be a point where you're transitioning. Because some people might be out there and they're entrepreneurs and they're saying, what's the point? I could move right straight from varsity into entrepreneurship.
Of which there's nothing wrong with
There's
that.
absolutely nothing wrong.
There's nothing wrong with it.
But I always kind of feel like it's important to take a step back. Because directors also need to be directed. I mean, that's true. You could be a director, but you still need to be directed. There's a lot that we still need to learn. From other people that we see on our daily basis. Our managers, our CEOs, our CFOs. For me, I've learned a lot from those people, and I've applied those very same principles into everything that I've done or everything that we've done. And we keep growing. And we'll take, for an example, we run a couple of businesses, as we've mentioned before. A very important thing for us is that having that mentor is such a blessing I wouldn't even say in disguise. It's such a very amazing blessing to have someone that's actually walked the path. And another very important thing is that if you think about it, if you're in a company, within a company setup, you already see how a company is supposed to function, or how the systems are supposed to function. So this whole idea, for me, to be honest, sharing my own experience, the idea of actually shunning this 9 to 5 situation, I think is kind of dangerous,
It is dangerous in the sense that, we still need to make a living. 1, 2, it's not everyone who is, I'm not saying that you are unable to do it, but it's not everyone who has that business mind. For example, we always have this conversation of the fact that, in as much as we were blessed to finish with our studies and get jobs in our industry.
Yeah.
For me, at that time, at the age of 21, 22, my mind, my thinking level was not at a point of let me start something for myself. Had I not received a job, you know, I would probably would have been stuck and not knowing what to do with my life. So I think that 9 to 5 actually helped me in terms of making a living for myself and my family. We were not married at the time. So I think that's very, very helpful in that sense for that person as well, who feels like they're not able to go into business. You know, so they still have something to do on a daily basis to support themselves and make a living for themselves.
I think you're very right, because at that age, the mindset for a lot of us as young people when we get out of school is mainly I need to meet my bills, and it's an understandable mindset,
and
because
I mean, most of us don't come from rich families, you know, so your parents at that point, they cannot wait for you to find a job and start earning. And for some of us, we need to go back home and start contributing, you know.
And which is a very important thing, you know.
Yes.
Because obviously people from home might have cultivated, and I'm not saying it's cast in stone, you know, it's not a template written for everyone. I know some people even call it black text these days, which is sad, but to see people calling that because sacrifices might have, or most probably would have been made by those parents at that time. I think it's important to, in that light, understand that entrepreneurship is one of those journeys that I don't think you should walk alone. Because as you spoke about depression as well, I think if you're walking it alone, it can be quite dangerous. Hence I'm saying the whole idea of mentors, because it's not as glamorous, like we've learned now.
Yeah, no, entrepreneurship, it's rough.
It's rough.
It truly is rough. And maybe we can just dwell a little bit on how our 9 to 5s have actually helped us, you know, in our businesses. Because we've started all of our businesses, still doing our 9 to 5 jobs, still able basically to maintain the balance between our work and doing our own thing, or our hustle, if I can put it that way.
Side hustle.
So if I can put it that way. And then, so maybe you can just elaborate a little bit of how that has helped us or helped you, you know, having a job and also being able to do your side hustle.
I think, babe, for me, as you obviously would know in our story, is that when we started, I mean, for example, one of the businesses, which was with student accommodation and food at that time, actually.
We started with food,
before we moved on. And we've tried a lot of businesses, and that's the other beauty, that if you're still working in 9 to 5, because I feel like no one's talking about the advantages of actually, when you're in a 9 to 5, you're able to make some of the mistakes, because we made a lot of mistakes in the food business.
It's
fine, but you're still going to get a salary at the end of the month, but you've learned so much. And I want to take it to one of the quotes also of one of our mentors, like recently that we visited. And obviously things are now really shaping up in our businesses now, and things are taking good direction, you know. But he said something very interesting to us, that he's seen us through the journey, starting so many businesses where we thought we had failed, and yet he says, you guys have been very
he says he likes us very much because we haven't failed at anything. And we're like, wait a minute, what do you mean we haven't failed? We started off with that. It failed in our eyes. But I mean, his point was that didn't stop us. You know, we continued and tried something else. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, we move on to something else.
Because the food business was rough, guys. I remember we like literally just to reminisce on what used to happen there. I mean, we're working, you know, and at that time you're working, you're getting a salary, you're balancing your work and trying to do the food. So the whole idea around the food business, we're coming up with the whole new food app, similar to what Uber Eats is doing now.
Exactly.
You know, before even Uber Eats thought about it, we were doing it for students, and we're trying to come up with different ways of delivering food, and we even had a truck. You know, you remember?
Well, I think that was part of our inexperience in business. You know, we went big. dreamers, you know.
Yeah,
So we always dream the best for ourselves. But we went really big at that time. I mean, we had 2 vehicles that were doing deliveries. The 2 vehicles needed 2 drivers.
yeah, they
So
needed
you
fuel.
They needed fuel, so
So
you can
drivers
imagine.
needed to be paid.
Exactly.
You know.
So I feel like that's where our 9 to 5s filled in the gap now, because sometimes we're not making, not sometimes, most probably every month we didn't make enough
No, we made
money.
a loss. Like we made a, I mean, the whole balance sheet was a loss. It was red.
So now you receive
red,
your salary
red.
only to go and pay someone else.
Yeah, I mean,
you know.
but on the brighter side, actually, because of hearing from the wisdom of this guy who was our mentor, saying that to us, to say, listen, guys, you haven't really failed at it. You didn't fail then. And this was our first business, right?
The fact that you've continued, you know, and went on to something else.
Above continuing though, babe, for me the most important thing is that we actually made the idea a material thing. Because a lot of people and around our circles, in any case, which is what he was referring to us, is that we end up just leaving ideas as ideas.
Exactly, not pursuing them. Exactly.
And the only way to learn in entrepreneurship, unfortunately,
they say dreamers are also doers. So it's important to dream, but at the same time be able to do. Yes, follow your dreams. You know, taking that risk, you know, taking that chance, and the ability to sacrifice, you know. That's the thing.
No, it's quite something that hits home very close, obviously, this whole idea of making sure that when we're entrepreneurs, we make sure that we look at what we have and work with what we have. But in actual fact, you want to come in there?
No, I also want us to talk about the fact that, you know, the 9 to 5 also allows you to grow as an individual, in as much as it's a stage, but it also allows you to grow in the sense that, you know, when you're creative, it's far more difficult for you to acquire assets because the income is not consistent every month. So I think the advantage as well is the fact that, you know, we were able to acquire assets through the bank just because you've got a
consistent income. It's a very important point. I mean, obviously, even for capital for the business, I mean, one of the things that's why I keep going back to that message to say that we didn't fail because we actually at that point were able to even fund those businesses.
Exactly.
From our salaries. So for me, that was quite a very important thing. We learned a lot within those miscommunication, failures, or all that happened at that time. With the food. But then again, another thing, it led us on to open that business, opened our eyes to the next business, right?
Of course, it was growth from that stage going forward, which is quite good. All right, I just have one thing to ask you. So in terms of the 9 to 5 now, and also doing your side hustle, how do you manage the balance now between your work and, you know, there's also things as conflict of interest. I mean, you wouldn't want to be doing a 9 to 5 that conflicts with your current work. You wouldn't want to take your employer's clients, if I can put it that way. So I think
that's an ethical thing. I honestly believe that it's time allocation discipline. When you're working, you've got to be at work. And for us, basically, our mentors, like I said, came from the place we work from, so we could not. They knew the other things. We're quite open and transparent in terms of this is what we're trying to do. And obviously, maybe someone might be listening to us and say, "But hey, my boss doesn't want to hear that." You know what I mean? But I think it also is important because some mentors are not people that you really speak to, right? It's actually people that you see and what they do from afar. They don't necessarily know every bit and piece of what you're doing. But I think it's important to remain ethical, to know that if it's an 8 to 5
that's
or
very
9
important.
to 5,
and still be diligent, you know,
in your
at your 9 to 5 job. You know, I think the most important thing is finding good time management, I would say. Yes, you must be able to manage your time wisely and know that this time is allocated for 1 and 2, and then later on in the evening or over the weekend, this is what I do.
Yeah.
On my side hustle.
Yeah.
And then also the other thing that we've learned is maybe you can elaborate more on it.
Yeah.
In terms of building systems.
Yeah.
In your hustle. Well, you need to take your hustle seriously.
Yeah.
Just as you take your day-to-day job.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's where I think we touched on it a bit earlier to say that if you are within a company setup, you start to see a template, a real template of how professionalism is carried out.
Yeah.
So the first important thing is you understand there's an HR department. These are the people that deal with people's concerns.
Yeah.
You know, as a director, in essence, for you to build to a point where you are not there and the system functions with you not being there, which are some of the mistakes we had to make as we were starting our businesses, because we thought we have to always be.
So, you had, but if you look at your organization, I mean, your director is not always at work. So I think it's important that you find the right people who align with your vision at that time and make sure that you are able to push whatever that needs to be pushed, and you definitely do make things work.
And even if you don't, because I think the other question that usually comes up there is, but what if I don't love my job? You know, I'm in a job, I don't love it. But the systems, you don't have systems, like that's why I say entrepreneurship is hard.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter if you're doing music or you're doing a different kind of job, you're doing consulting work, you're doing all these other things, right? You for it to really not frustrate you, now that we're where we're at, and obviously we're still learning, for it to not frustrate you, I feel like the systems have got to be right. Like the systems have got to work, you know. So even in the 9 to 5s that at times people don't like, usually some of those jobs literally have got good systems. So it's also just to realize that we didn't like school, but we still went there.
And some of it is just still a process in life. And then when you talk about a system, you know, sometimes the system may not work, as I said, as you would want it, or the fact that you have a system, you're trying to create a system for your side hustle doesn't necessarily mean that you should ditch your hustle, you know, altogether and say, you know what, I've got so and so who's doing this and that for me. Because at the end of the day, I also believe that no one will take care of your baby more than you.
That's for sure. That's for sure. And also, I think if you touch on an interesting point there, the whole thing of having cash flow whilst you're working is a very important point, I feel, because if you're not careful and you start off and rush into entrepreneurship, you can start to make hasty decisions, like desperate decisions, that start to affect a lot of things within your production line if you're in production. You know what I mean? So I think the most important thing is to really, really look within yourself, understand where you're at. That's another very important thing. It happened for us naturally, and I think we thank God for that, because it's happening even naturally, to realize that, like I said, the director's got to be directed. I think we need to really look at where we're at, understand the financial muscle that we have at that point in our lives, then make a decision based on that. Because you will need to fund these things, you know what I mean?
And for me, the one thing that I really liked and have always admired, you know, we have never done anything, well, I wouldn't say anything or never, but most of our decisions have barely been from a point of desperation. Because I think we were fortunate enough to have our jobs that support us and support our vision and stuff. I mean, sometimes you meet people that will just, I mean, once we met a lady, she saw the potential of the business, basically.
I remember that,
she was of a different race, and just because she was of a different race, she felt like, because I look different, I'll add so much value to your business. Give me 20%.
Conversation for another day, by the way.
And then she says, give me 20%. And for a very small amount, I must say. And because we're not doing things from a point of desperation, we're just like, no, we can't do that, you know. And we've also, along our journey, met other people, you know, people who come and flash
fancy things, you know.
Or even certain amounts and be like, no, give us such a portion of your business. But we've always been like, we are not doing things, firstly, from a point of desperation. Secondly, I don't think we are driven by money or profits.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
We're just doing it so that we grow.
Yeah. And add value.
Yes.
Because businesses have to add value into society. And just to touch on what you're saying there, Beck, it's so important to be in control of your decisions, especially in entrepreneurship. It's such an important thing.
Very important.
Because a lot of big businesses have even fallen because of that. And the importance also of having that guidance or that support structure around you, like what we're talking about. Understanding board meetings, understanding boardrooms, understanding that we don't make a decision on the street.
Exactly.
We need to,
we
carry that through.
And the thing is, if you don't have that understanding, people can take advantage of you at the end of the day. As we said when we started the podcast, that paperwork is very important. In business. So it's very important as well that you don't make hasty decisions, that you think about every decision that you need to make and make sure it's the best decision for your business. And as much as it's a side hustle, for me, what I've learned is to take my hustle as serious as I take my day job. And I think the day that I changed my mentality, that's when I started to see change.
Results.
Exactly. That's when I started to see change, because I started taking my craft seriously. I mean, when we have meetings between the two of us, we have minutes. We set a meeting, we set a time, we have minutes of the meeting, because we take our thing that seriously.
To the point that I always laugh with the guys when I talk to them, and I'm like, guys, my bedroom's my boardroom. It does happen because at times I don't make decisions, obviously, there and there, because it's important to then bounce back with the person you're working with. And all these things, I feel you learn on a 9 to 5. That's what I'm saying. It's been so pushed down.
Yes, but there's so much that we can learn and take away and apply in our own businesses. There's a lot, especially if you're someone who didn't go to business school.
It's so important. And the other thing is that it's not really a money thing. You know, I feel, for me, strongly, from what I now know, even with some of the businesses we've tried and it didn't go as well as we had planned, and some of them have gone really well, you know, especially the two that we're involved in right now. They're growing, and we thank God for that. But the very important thing, that I wanted us to look at and talk about mainly is the idea of that it's not the money situation that makes you grow. You still need to have that guidance. You know, I think it's very important to have that guidance.
I mean, you can have the money and blow it just like that.
Quickly.
Exactly.
It could be gone out of your hands.
Exactly.
If you concentrate on the money situation.
Right. So let me just ask you one question. So do you feel like the 9 to 5 job has wasted our time? You know, we could be the next Bill Gates, you know, but because we've had to commit like 8 hours of our day into something else instead of focusing on our businesses, do you feel like that has hindered us in terms of progress?
No. There's different opinions about that question.
Well, I'm talking about us personally.
I think for us, no, it actually has worked the opposite direction. It has helped us to understand how our businesses run. Like I said, it's more like an academy, right? 9 to 5 is like an academy. Very important for us, even at the stage that we're at right now in our lives. I mean, I've left work sort of, you know, under an employer, but before we left, or I left rather work, I had to be trained, if you get what I'm saying.
You had to go through that process.
And it helped a lot, because right now when I wake up every day, one of the most important things, guys, is that I wake up every day and act like I'm going to a job, although I'm working for me and
yourself,
us. You know, so that discipline would have not been there had I just decided to do my own thing. And it's fine, I could have, but where would I have learned that discipline? Because there's adversity you learn, but you kind of don't understand how like we said, when we started the business, we still had an idea of how our business runs. And because we hadn't attended business school, you don't know that you need an HR department. You don't know that you need an accounting department.
You don't even know what a leave form looks like.
You have no idea how tax is managed. You know what I mean? And now I feel like because I've been in a 9 to 5, and also the attitude within the 9 to 5,
and
I feel like
the
should be right.
professionalism.
Sure.
I mean, exactly.
Sure.
You don't just answer the phone and be like, yeah, hey.
There we go.
You know.
You know what I mean? If a client's calling you, you pick that up from a 9 to 5 that you just don't answer. That's a very good one. You don't just.
There's a level of professionalism
Yeah.
that you learn. Yeah.
Yeah, and I've seen that happen, and I cringe a lot of times. You know what I mean? Because I'm like, I have a feeling that the academy situation might have not happened yet. So yes, for me, the 9 to 5 was something that was very important to happen in my life. It's not cast in stone for everyone, though. Like we say, some children grow up in houses that have got businesses, you know, and they already learn how to learn all those systems. It's not cast in stone, but I think it's such an important. It's been played down upon in our generation as if, you know, this whole life right now, the podcast, for us to get where we at right now with this whole situation, it didn't start here. You know what I mean? It still needs to be funded. Guys, the lights have to be funded. Everything around still needs to be funded. You know what I mean? So I feel like we need to be cognizant of that fact. So I'm not an advocate or trying to push that people should go and do a 9 to 5. But I'm more of an advocate that, as I said before, a director's got to be directed. And just to add something there as well, from a biblical aspect, because I mean, we're Christians, the Word of God also says God gives grace to the humble, you know, and He resists the proud. For me, I feel like some of the success that we're enjoying and we will enjoy in the future comes from the fact that we need to remain humble.
That's very
be
important.
teachable, have that teachable spirit, because if you don't have that, at times if you just shoot straight, then you find some guys are in there but they're not grounded. Or some guys grow so quickly into something, but if there's no grounding or there's no mentorship programs around you, you might still think you're going the right direction.
And I feel like you don't even know how to submit to anything.
No.
You know, it's always, I'm the boss.
There we
you
go.
know, I'm everything around here.
There we go.
I've walked in, so, you know, yeah, no, that's true.
Yeah.
For me, the other thing that I have, that I can say that I've learned is the fact that, and if you also love, you know, like me, I love my job. Yeah, I love my job very much. So I still enjoy my 9 to 5 very much.
Yeah.
So I'm okay.
And there's nothing wrong with
I'm okay
it.
with sticking with my 9 to 5. I absolutely love my job.
Yeah.
That's the thing. And the thing is with us as well, our businesses, well, some of them, would say, as I said, we're selling food. I mean, that's not aligned with engineering or anything. So for me, you know, I still had to do something that I love, and as much as I wanted, you know, to create that extra income for myself, but I still love what I do on a daily basis. So I'm still okay with my 9 to 5. Exactly,
And to say that at times, I think for me, one thing I'm learning from the whole 9 to 5 situation, or that I learned from the 9 to 5 situation, is that not everything is as it seems. Especially with the whole entrepreneurship, the whole idea of what we're being sold on social media, what we're being sold on TV, what an entrepreneur or an idea of an entrepreneur is.
I feel like everyone comes with a finished product and be like,
you know
this is what you achieve,
you know
but not necessarily the journey.
The journey,
and,
you know
the difficulties of it all.
And the wins of it, or the challenges of it. And that's where I think it's very important, because the 9 to 5 is linked to that. So I think for me that's that, hey babe, in terms of the whole 9 to 5 situation.
Yeah, so in summary, I think what we're saying is we are for it, but at the same time, it's not a journey for everyone.
Yeah,
you know, it's not a cast in stone thing for everyone. There are people who are that brilliant that they can just go off and
they're body entrepreneurs.
Yes, exactly. They can just go off and do their own thing, of which it's okay. But I think the point that we're trying to drive across today is it's still okay to have your 9 to 5 job. It's still cool.
Yeah, it's still fashionable. I was about to say, I wanted to use that word. I was looking for that. It's still fashionable.
It's still fashionable to have a 9 to 5. It's still okay to have a 9 to 5, you know.
And don't rush before your time. Like for me, I feel like don't rush out of that system if it's available for you. Because we gotta be careful. Some people obviously don't finish school and have opportunities. Some people don't even finish school in itself and have to start as entrepreneurs. But most of those, I promise you, speak to any one of those people and have a proper one-on-one, a coffee session with them. They'll tell you entrepreneurship is not an easy journey. It's quite a lonely journey, and you need guidance. Whether it's in 9 to 5 is one of the tools.
Or you get it from elsewhere. But you definitely need guidance. That guidance.
It's very important. So guys, I think as we have wrapped up the topic today, please do remember about the foundation. I'm reminding you today again about the foundation. Remember to email or write to us if you're looking for a bursary. If you're a matric student as well, that's just finished, and you're looking for a bursary as well, remember to write to us. The email address is shown below, info@youarecapable.com. Write to us for that. And remember as well, if you're a sponsor and you want to assist, remember to also write to us as we share our experiences as well. For those that have also finished, varsity, college, or any other forms of tertiary education, and you need assistance in terms of linking up, and this is a disclaimer, we are not saying we will provide the jobs,
but we're providing the platform.
And there are people in the industry that we would know that would really assist you. So definitely, it's one of those things in terms of the foundation that you would need to. Is there anything you would want to add?
And I think if you need maybe resources like books, a laptop, such things, you can also reach out to us. I mean, material related to your studies and stuff. You can also write about that.
For sure.
Thank you so much for joining us. It's been good. It's been great. And always remember that you are capable.
Just to say thank you for supporting us and supporting what we are doing for students and student accommodation. So we just wanted to say thank you. So the idea is that we're going to present to you a food voucher. Right.
Just to say thank you so much. We really do appreciate the support. Yes.
We hope it helps, eh?
No, we really do. You're so sweet, man.
What are you studying? Medicine. Wow, brilliant. So you are aware of Ubana, you have an opportunity to write to us at info@youarecapable.com, but we'll leave you with some of those details. I don't know if the reps had communicated with you. Okay, there's opportunities for people that are studying, obviously within the BNL lifestyle and the You Are Capable side of things. We try and link you up to work opportunities. So when you finish studying, you've got those. So whether it's engineering, it's doctoring, all these different side of things. Do you currently have a bursary?
Yes.
That's good. Thank you so much for your time. And how is this going to help? Look, because all the best, all the best.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. Cheers.